Hello everyone and welcome to the Pitskill.io Porsche Cup and BMW M2 Multiclass, sponsored by SimQuips. It is round 5, one of those of our championship, and tonight we are here at the Red Bull Ring in Austria as our Porsche Cups take to the track and get this qualifying session underway. We can take a quick moment to take a look at our standings in the Porsche Cup, and it is Joe Wilson who still leads the way. Currently tied at the top with Matthew Parry, both on 110 points due to both of their best rounds having been dropped. Joe Wilson though with 2 wins to his name, Matthew Parry with just the 1. So from the end of this round our points should start to make a bit more sense. Going down the order, we've got Johan Leff in P3 and Jens Nielsen in P4 joint on 100 points. And John Sawyer, Kenny Crows both on 80. On to more Balazs here and Juhis Lats all on 76 points. And just behind them are Select Klinger, Sven Onyarovic and Maya van Dijk on 72. And look, there we are. Those are our standings for the Porsche Cups. And with such a short lap here at the Red Bull Ring, we've got a number of times on the board at the moment, and it is Joe Wilson who is setting the pace at the moment with a 1:29.7. First of our drivers to drop into the 29s. Currently running down in P2, Johan Leff on 4/10 off the pace at the moment. That's sitting on 1:30.157. Has now got his custom livery working nicely. And well, we'll have to go in for a tighter shot of that as it runs over the camera. Interesting camera angles here at the Red Bull Ring. And jumping up into P2 is Matthew Parry. A 1:29.990. We have 2 drivers now into the 1:29s. Expect there will be more to come. Then in P4 we have got Konjarovic. 1:30.6. Still within that 1 second of our current pole setting pace. And in P6 is Slavek Klinger. 1:30.9. As Marek Chatil jumps up into P5, a 1:30.7, and then just over a second off of Joe Wilson's current best. Very short track hit, and well, I'm sure everyone is very glad that this particular race only has half of the field on track qualifying at once. It's now jumping up to P4 is John Sawyer. 1:30.5, and Martin Kuij is sitting in P4 at the moment, 1:30.5. Really is looking like it's Matthew Parry, Joe Wilson and Johan Leff who will be setting the pace during this session, as Matthew Parry gets the time 0.027 seconds faster than Joe Wilson. It is very, very tight at the top. As now Johan Leff takes the fastest time, just some 1.5 hundredths faster than Matthew Parry. It is looking very, very competitive in this Porsche Cup top 3. We continue our way down the order. P7 we have got Lars Uhlers in the 117 car, currently sitting on a 1:30.6. Jerome Eckhard in the 121 car on a 1:30.7. So our midfield also exceptionally tight here, from Kuij down to McCarthy, Klinger, even Martin separated by less than half a second. So I'm expecting this race to be tightly fought at the top and then also tightly fought in our midfield, as Konjurovic joining that class at the top of the field, just 1/10 off of Johan Leff, 1/10 separating our top 4 in this field. Very, very impressive pace on display, as Jens Nielsen looking a wee bit lonely there in P5, or now P6 actually, who has been joined by Eckhard, now within a 10th, so looking like potential for competition up and down this grid. And Sam McCarthy down in P12, 130.8. We have Slevak Klinger in the flaming livery there, the number 666 car, just 100 slower than McCarthy. Balazs Feher, number 300s, down on Klinger, 130.872. We have Hef Martin in E15, very close behind, and actually off onto the grass. Close behind is Nitro on a 130.9. Our attention back to the top of our field. It's currently Johan Leff setting the pace on a 129.615, and plenty of laps being put in by all our drivers here. Very short circuit here at the Red Bull Ring. We're able to pump in lap after lap. As looking at no one in that top group improving at the moment. It's going to come down to their final laps in this session. As Matthew Parry will be the first of our front runners to head on to their final lap of this session, as he takes a little bit of the sausage curb on the exit of turn 1, running almost identical lap times to what we've seen previously from Parry. I think this is going to be a really hard fought lap from this lead trio. As we come around down the hill towards turn 4, very steep descent down into an apex, and then washing out. Very easy to run wide there on the exit of turn 4, then into the fast turns of 6, 7, sweeping through into 8. And Matthew Parry currently not doing enough to improve on his lap time. Unlikely to be challenging Johan Leff unless we get a storming couple of final corners here. We come through the second to last corner and into the final corner. Matthew Parry giving it everything he's got and running slightly wider track limits, I think, there. We'll turn our attention towards Joe Wilson, who is now coming around the final 2 corners, currently up on his previous best by over a 10th. Just needs to hold it together for this final corner, keeping it pinned to the line. Joe Wilson crosses the line with a 129.520 to take pole position here at the Red Bull Ring. A phenomenal final lap there from Wilson to take the pole. And we turn our attention now to BMW M2s, who have taken themselves to the grid. As I look for who is the lead car of that group, I think it's the 46 car. As Andre Thierry, our race winner from round 1, first out on track to set a flying lap in the M2s. As we go on board with Thierry. Take a quick look at our standings. Oscar Yaron leading the way with 2 wins. Andre Thierry with just the 1 win to his name. But again, all tied at the top due to the quirk of the drop rounds that we have here in the multi-class. Oscar and Andre Thierry tied P1-2. And joint P3 is Lennon Bromfield and Callum Scotland. And well, they seem to be going in pairs almost all the way down. As we turn our attention back to the qualifying laps being set by our Porsche Cup drivers. Porsche Cup drivers, our BMW M2 drivers. Apologies, it is very warm in here. I'm not sure my brain is working as it should be. As we descend down the hill through the two left-handers of turns 6 and 7. Flat out kink of turn 8 as we come down towards the final two corners. A very short lap, not many corners, but makes it all that important to get every one of them right as Andre Thierry throws it into the final corner, just about keeping it within the track limits, and will cross the line for a 1 minute 41.3. Remains to be seen what the rest of our field can do, as Anthony Victor Chappelle 142.7, some 1.5 seconds off the pace there from Thierry. As for Boda, it's in a 142.7. It's looking like a great opening lap there from Thierry, and we don't have our championship leader in the BMW M2s tonight, Oscar Yaram, conspicuous by his absence, and Andre Thierry setting the timing towers ablaze with that opening lap. As Carlos Jimenez sends the hill into the tight over 90-degree turn of turn 3. Somewhere we'll expect to see perhaps a few daring lunges during our race tonight. In P3, Giovanni Michelini. And that distinctive chrome liveried car. Going past, I think that's Alex Perry in that quite alarming, really, Trek car. P6 in class currently being held by Jules Flint in that magenta and black car. We see the Red Bull Bull in the background. As Scotland jumps up into P2, just 4/10 off of our pole sitter, that purple tartan. Victor Chappelle also closing up that gap, now within 0.7 of a second of Thierry. And drivers looking to just find their pace over a few laps. And we could see Chappelle starting to challenge that pole lap we have from Thierry at the moment. František Severin is in P28 overall. That is P6 in class. Not currently improving on this lap, but still plenty of time. The 1 minute 40 lap here, one of the shortest for the M2s. And plenty of laps to show what they can do. As Marco Lorenzon, I suspect, not done much practice at this track in these cars. He's finding plenty of time over these laps. After only 3 corners, is now 1.5 seconds up on their previous best. He's some 6 seconds off the pace, but has got a few more laps just to try and put one lap together. As Andre Thierry has stamped his authority on this session even further with a 141.0. As Callum Scotland improves again. We're seeing the time starting to come down as Cam Scotland emerges from the pit lane. Looking to do a final run on fresh rubber. Interesting tactic there from Scotland. It's usually tyre temperature that reigns supreme in the M2 class, and with track temperatures looking like being quite low here, 21-degree track temperature, is going to take a while to get heat into those tyres for the M2s. Don't generate quite as much energy as we see from the Porsche Cups. So we look through to see who can try and improve their position in this qualifying, final 2 minutes of qualifying. Jules Flint currently up on their previous best. You're going to look up an apex on the run down through turn 4. This track full, especially this middle sector, full of medium speed corners. Really important to just carry that minimum apex speed, really keep that minimum speed up as high as you can. It's a tricky thing to do in these M2s, but also important just due to the fact of how little power they have. Tiny bit of speed lost in the mid corner is going to cost you all the way down the next straight. And as we cross the line with Flint, it is enough to jump them ahead of Svoboda. That is P4 in class now, 141.7. As everyone onto their final lap of the session. As Severin only sitting down in P30 overall, a 142.527. 6 hundredths of a second would see them improve above Michelini. Michelini, who currently back in the pit, so will not be improving on their time. So big opportunity here for Severin. Pull something out of the bag and improve their position up the grid. As Scotland still down in P2 on an invalid lap at the moment, as is Chappelle. But don't think either of these will have the opportunity to improve their position. It's Severin who we need to keep our eye on as it makes his way round the final couple of corners. 2 corners to go here, just about keeping themselves within the track limits. Now foot to the floor, to the line, should be a decent improvement here for Francisca, and it is up to P28 overall, P6 in class, and a good couple of position improvement there at the end of this session. As Marco Lorenzon putting it all together for a final lap here. Not sure it's going to be able to improve their position up from P31, but let's see what they can do in terms of the time. Currently sitting on 147.3. And this the last ditch attempt to pull something together around the final corner. Going to bring them back into a more competitive pace in preparation for our race. It's a 142.9, now only half a second off of our pole position in the class. Oh, sorry, our P30, or last place, second to last place in class. So Lorenzon isn't necessarily going to be completely out of the competitive order for tonight's race. As our drivers are preparing themselves on the grid for tonight's race, we can jump back over and take a look at our starting order for tonight's race. On pole position, it's Joe Wilson, a familiar place for our current championship leader. Alongside him on the front row is Johan Leff, in that very fetching Galaxy livery. Quite a fan of that one. It's pretty good. Well done, Lef. Certainly brought something more interesting than the light green. In P3, we have got Matthew Perry, number 85 car. They'll be looking to try and take advantage of a good run up out of P1 here. Sorry, out of turn 1 here. It's a long run up to P3 to turn 3, and plenty of opportunity to make a move if someone gets a bad exit. In P4, we have got Konjarevic in the 128 car, with Jens Nielsen in P5. P6 is John Sawyer. They're rounding up the third row in the grid. Fourth row, we have got Eckhart in the 121 car, and they'll be starting alongside Partez. P9, we have got Martin Cuij, who doesn't seem to have a custom livery, or at least not one that has loaded for me. In P10, a driver who most certainly does have a custom livery, it is Balazs Fahir in the 369. In P11, we've got Engin Dom in a very nice track silhouette liveried car. P12 is Lars Ellers. I'm going to try and make my way through these ones quickly because this is going to be a very short formation lap. In P13 we've got Marek Schittel. In P14 Slavik Klinger. P15 is Felinas Nitro, starting alongside Sam McCarthy, with Hef Martin in P17. In P18 it is Andrew Eccleston, with Jakub Borovic in P19. P20 it's Kevin Galal, with Jarno Briznik in P21. In P22 is Eric Hunn in that nice cherry blossom livery car. And then starting our BMW field at the front is Andre Thierry, with Callum Scotland starting alongside him on the grid. That run down to turn 1. In P26 overall and P3 in class is Anthony Victor Chappelle, with Wojtek Svoboda in P5, and Francisco Severin in P6. Carlos Jimenez is in P7 in the TCX class, with Giovanni Michelini in P8. Marco Lorenzon is in P31 overall, and we've got Alex Perry at the back of the field. I think Alex Perry should be ahead of Lorenzon there, lagging behind on the formation lap. We will return our attention back to the front of the field as we are moments away from starting this race here at the Red Bull Ring. There's quite a large gap there between Joe Wilson and Johan Leff. We come through final couple of corners to form up the grid ahead of the green flag. Really see the elevation change, the grandstand there at the top of the hill, showing just how high a climb these cars have to make, get themselves between turn 2 and turn 3. Again, we're descending the hill down towards the final turn of turn 10. This is an area of the track where we suspect some drivers might have some struggles with track limits. Red Bull Ring, a very notorious track, especially anyone who watches Formula 1 knows of that. But hopefully these drivers can keep themselves within the lines and avoid any drive-through penalties during this race as we wait the green flag to wave. And we are racing here in Austria, and it is a good start there from Joe Wilson, Matthew Parry alongside Johan Leff in the background, as it's Marek Schittel staying ahead of it's Sven Konjarevic staying ahead of Jens Nielsen. That's Nielsen down in P5 at the moment. As we had a little bit of a problem for some of our TCX runners, as Andre Thierry has dropped down the order. He's actually now down behind Callum Scotland. So what has happened there for Thierry? Oh, Thierry just not getting a good start at all. As well, we've got chaos all over the shop in the background coming out of the first corner. But it is Callum Scotland who leads the way in the TCX class. They come up the hill. Once they all sorted themselves out, it was a sensible enough start for our TCX class. As up at the front of the field, Sven Konjarevic looking all over the back of Matthew Parry. It is a long old train there with Parry, Konjarevic, Nilsson, Sawyer, Eckhard and Partes, all separated by very little. As we come on to the second lap of the race, Joe Wilson with a considerable lead, and Sven Konjarevic just outbreaking himself there behind Matthew Parry, having to take to the runoff, rejoining the track safely, making good use of those escape roads. It's nice to see the drivers making sensible decisions, themselves back into the race. Behind we have got Ehlers, Borovic and Chatil battling close, as I think that is car of Godot going sideways through the corner. What happened there? We came up the hill, we just saw the back of this one. Oh, and it's Godot into the back of Hef Martin, and the two of them synchronized sliding through the corner as Godot choosing an interesting route to get back onto the circuit. But get back onto the circuit they do. Get themselves back underway. At the front of the TCX field, it is still Callum Scotland leading the way in front of Andre Thierry, but Thierry looking like he's going to want to try and change that soon as they go side by side down the hill towards turn 6. And Thierry's going to be able to carry so much more speed through the corner, but getting blocked on the apex there by Scotland. Not the easiest of corners to try and make a move through as we descend down the hill. MP9 Kouij getting past Faye here, but we'll keep our eyes with this battle. It's actually looking like someone disappeared from the race. Let's see, Blash Faye here dropping down, or Blash Faye here really dropping down. As we've got incidents all over the shop. And Callum Scotland keeping ahead. What has happened here? What in the blazes? Right. Okay, well, we've lost Balazs Faye here. But what happened here? Coming down into turn 1, 3 wide, always a great... Oh, and I think... Oh dear. And that was Faye here and Faye here, McCarthy and Kouij not realising that they were 3 wide. I think Faye here totally... Oh, and... Oh, okay, well that was Godot going for another bit of collision there. That was all around quite messy. Back at the front of the field, Joe Wilson still leading ahead of Johan Lev and Matthew Parry. Parry now with a big old gap back to John Sawyer after Konjarevic disappeared from his mirrors. So these three left to battle it out for the race lead, and I think this is going to be a familiar situation for the remainder of the season. As of yet, no one having taken their mandatory pit stop. A reminder that these drivers do have to take at least one pit stop in this race. 25 minutes fixed refueling time, optional tyre change. Could keep things nice and interesting as Callum Scotland and Andre Thierry side by side yet again. We come down towards the final 2 corners. Callum Scotland taking a defensive inside line, and oh, that was heavy collision there between Thierry and Scotland. Now Scotland all the way back to all the way down to the back of that TCX train, opting to take to the pit road. Andre Thierry, I suspect will be having a steward's inquiry coming his way after this race. as we return Joe Wilson, still leading ahead of Johan Leff and Matthew Parry. In the second train behind John Sawyer, that is Jens Nielsen, Jerome Eckhart and Artes. Konjurovic just joining onto the back of that train now. We then have Lars Ellers in P10, being joined in battle by Marek Shatil and Borovic, as Partes gets past Eckhart. Eckhart actually dropping quite far back. I'm not sure if there was a mistake there from Eckhart. Oh yes, running very wide out of the final corner, and that's why they lost 2 positions through that corner. Unfortunate stuff there. And down in the doldrums of P18, we've got Kuij, Gado and Brezhnik battling it out. And then we have got Andre Thierry leading our way in the BMW TCX class ahead of Jules Flint and Beatrix Savoda. And then Jimenez, Lorenzon and Michelini rounding out the second 3. And Lorenzon having a good race after a what looked like quite a difficult qualifying session for them. Certainly finding a lot more pace in race trim. Themselves up in P6 in class. Good work there from Lorenzon. She's in P5 in class now, so exceptional work. As Johan Leff now is right on the back of Joe Wilson, as we see in the background there. Matthew Parry diving off into the pit lane, looking for an early stop. Going to be a long final stint there, but with Wilson and Leff battling it out as they are, could come the way of Matthew Parry. It's going to really depend on whether he can avoid the traffic when he emerges from the pit lane. We will keep our eyes on that. We'll hope to come out into that sizable gap there we can see between the TCX and the Porsche Cup field. Joe Wilson holding on just 4 tenths ahead of Johan Leff. John Sawyer with Nielsen close in behind. They come down into turn 4. Matthew Parry back on the move and has timed that pit stop to absolute perfection. Has come out right in the gap between the classes and now has got oodles of room to go and drive into. As at the front, Johan Leff has got past Joe Wilson. Let's see if we can find out what happened there. Coming through turns 6 and 7, Joe Wilson putting a couple of wheels out onto the gravel, Oscar Piastri style, and that's allowed Johan Leff to sweep through and up into the lead, but now into the pits straight away after. Johan Leff perhaps seeing that the Porsche Cups, sorry, the BMW M2 is not too far off into the distance and wanting to cover off Matthew Parry, who is now running in clean air, as Andre Thierry under pressure now from Jules Flint. Andre Thierry, who took the lead of the race with violence, is now under pressure. And Svoboda joined the battle for the lead in this class. As we see Matthew Parry going down the start-finish straight as Johan Leff emerges from the pit lane with a considerable advantage over Matthew Parry. That gap 2.5 seconds as they climb the hill, might slightly close down. Leff should have slightly more speed as they come up towards turn 3. But Johan Leff, a decent advantage here over his competitor, as hung off the circuit on the runoff as well. And like a bit of a chaotic race, this one. As now Joe Wilson has entered into the pit lane. Leaves Sven Konjarovic out in P1. With Partes and Eckhard not far behind. Keep an eye on Joe Wilson, see where they emerge. As Johan Leff is now coming through the final couple of corners. Joe Wilson will need to start moving soon if he wants to try and hold on to, also retake the lead of this race. And I think this is going to be close as Joe Wilson now leaving the pit lane. As they both come through the final corner side by side, but it will be Johan Leff with the greatest speed as they come up towards turn 3. But side by side they go. I think Johan Leff will just make it to the corner ahead of Joe Wilson, but Wilson with the opportunity to battle now. And this fight will now continue for the remaining 18 minutes of this race. As they start to actually, they've now got one back marker to clear, and once they're clear of this, they have got the track to themselves. As you can see, almost a whole sector between them and the next cars, which are the back of the Porsche Cup class up ahead. The cars who have yet to pit, so plenty of clean air for Joe Wilson and Johan Leff to battle into. As Marek Chatil has got Ehlers all over his back as they head up towards turn 3. Yes, on the hill we can also see Borovic and Nitro in the background as Borovic going defensive. Could cost him on the run down towards turn 4. You see Ehlers in the slipstream behind Chatil. As they come down into turn 4, Chatil defending the inside should give Ehlers the better run out of the corner. As they're now also approaching onto the back of the battle there between Lorenzon and Jimenez. Chatil trying to go to the outside, there wasn't room there and loses 2 positions because of it. One unfortunate decision there has seen Chatil lose 3 positions. Could be opportunities still here as the back markers very much getting involved in this battle as Marek Chatil opting to dive into the pit lane, does not want to be dealing with these BMW M2s any more than he has to. We take a look at Callum Scotland after that unfortunate incident earlier on in the race. Now having served his mandatory pit stop is down in P31. Has not been able to claim any more ground. He's taking that early pit. As Johan Leff still leading this race ahead of Joe Wilson. Matthew Parry is closing that gap down though. Now just 1.5 seconds off our race leader, 1 second off of Joe Wilson. This is a close battle for the lead in this race, still 15.5 minutes to go. This battle far from over, as any small mistake could see this order change around in a moment. Things slightly less up for grabs in the BMW M2 race, as Andre Thierry still yet to pit and having to let by some of the Porsche Cups that should be pitting relatively soon, I would imagine. As they come out into the final couple of corners, and Andre Thierry does choose this lap to pit. So we'll emerge back onto the net running order. We still have Marco Lorenzo and Carlos Jimenez left to pit. This is from our lead, also from our Our two drivers left to pit in the BMW field, and we'll see where they filter back out into the order. Now the battle at the top of the Porsche Cup class is as close as it has been. 0.3 seconds separate Johan Leff and Joe Wilson as our net race leaders. Turn into the first corner for lap 11 here at the Red Bull Ring. Still 4 drivers ahead of them, yet to pit. I should say that's 3 drivers now left ahead of them. In the pits now, they have passed him, just waiting for our timing tower to update to confirm that. But Joe Wilson looking to the outside is going to try and open up this corner as Matthew Parry, having a look up the inside, may have slightly compromised that exit there from Joe Wilson, as it looked like he had to leave a little bit of room there on the apex. And that is going to help Johan Leff, who went defensive on the entry turn 3. As we come down the hill again, using all of the track and then some. Matthew Parry and Johan Leff just about keeping it on the blue concreted area. And through down into turns 9 and 10 we go again. Johan Leff with a gap of just under half a second back to Joe Wilson, and Matthew Parry close as well. Laps come thick and fast here at the Red Bull Ring. No time to relax. Every single corner has to be driven to perfection. As Johan Leff again using a lot of that yellow sausage curb. The Porsche Cups and especially the BMW M2s do handle that curb quite well. So nothing to be too concerned about. As we head on to the final 12 minutes of this race. There are plenty of laps left. We'll see Marco Lorenzo, the one remaining BMW M2 left to pit, as Jimenez emerges from the pit lane. We've got Jimenez and Lint side by side coming up into turn 3 as Jules Lint gets himself up into P5 in class. That will turn into a net P4 once Lorenzon comes into the pit lane. As Nitro is now into the pits, leaving just our 2 top runners left to pit in this race, those of Borovic and Kuij. Has Slavak Klinger and Marek Chatil swap positions behind Sam McCarthy. These 3 battling hard as Chatil looking for an opening. As we see Slavak Klinger running wide through the exit of turn 9, and Slavak Klinger going to have to go quite defensive here. Chatil all over the back of him. Going to look for a move up into turn 1. It would be optimistic as Slavak Klinger carries a lot of speed into turn 1, running wide. This could be an opportunity here for Marek Chatil. Actually looking like Klinger able to carry the speed, taking that, using a lot more of the exit. I suspect that will count as one of his 3 track cuts he can take on this session before getting a drive-through penalty, so that remains to be seen. But up at the front now, the battle for the lead in the Porsche Cup class, the lead of this race. Joe Wilson and Johan Leff going side by side through turn 9, as Johan Leff 4-wheel drifting it through the corner, just about leaving space. Joe Wilson and Johan Leff side by side, looking like there was going to be bumper to bumper contact there, but nothing happening, as now the chance goes to Matthew Parry to try and have an attack on Joe Wilson up the inside into turn 1. And Joe Wilson just managing to keep ahead for now, but these three battling hard, and it was a good attempt there from Joe Wilson getting alongside Johan Leff, but not being able to take the opportunity has cost him a little bit of that gap, and now having to take some of the pressure there from Matthew Parry. Needs to close that gap back up to Johan Leff. Just under 9 minutes remaining in this race now, and Joe Wilson has started to show a little bit of pace, and these three will continue this fight for the remainder of this race. As these three spread out a little bit, Sam McCarthy still leads this battle ahead of Slavek Klinger and Marek Schittil. Sam McCarthy not taking the extremes of the circuit, not using all the space available as the cars behind him attempt to do. And Schittil all over the back of Slavek Klinger. There's a slight wiggle there for Schittil, catches the car. And now Klinger with a good run on Sam McCarthy. Runs wide through the second to last corner, and Marek Schittil overturns through final corner, and that has cost him dearly. Now down behind Hef Martin and Balazs Feher. As at the front of the field, Johan Leff making his way past some of the backmarking traffic. The BMW M2s getting themselves well involved in this battle now, as Joe Wilson is on the chase, and this is going to be down to who can pick their way through the traffic. The track livery car there of Alex Perry getting well out of the way. And our top three are through. And Joe Wilson remains glued to the back of Johan Leff as we come into another lap, another tour of this Red Bull Ring circuit. We now have another three-way race as well. Hef Martin leads Balazs Feher and Martin Kruij. It's a battle over P15 in this race. There's Hef Martin holding on well in front of the usual train driver of Balazs Feher. We'll return our attention back to the front of the field, as now Johan Leff having to deal with the BMW M2 of Jules Flint. This could present an opportunity to Joe Wilson. They come through into turn 6 and 7, and there's Marco Lorenzo just ahead. He's going to give up the inside line. He does. This has allowed Leff and Wilson through, as Lorenzo not wanting to get involved at all. And so far, this top trio doing very well in picking their way through the traffic. Always tricky as the first driver to come onto the back of the slower lapping cars. You never know if they're going to spot you. Sometimes slightly easier as the second in line. You just get to capitalise on the space already created by the car ahead. As now we're coming to the denser traffic, as we pick our way through one and then two BMW M2s. Leff should get himself nicely alongside before the braking zone up into turn 3, and well clear as Matthew Parry has to compromise his line into the corner, and then to sitting on his outside. And Actually, I think that's something we don't see very often in these Porsche Cup races. I think that's one of the 991 Porsche Cup cars. You can tell by its narrow frame and the 4 lights on the front bumper. As these to battle it out, we've got more battling down in the BMW TCX class as Alex Perry gets his way past Giorgio Michelini, and with the Porsche Cups picking their way through as well. This adds just nicely to the chaos as Severin also looking to pick their way through. Oh, as Michelini gets all out of sorts, and we've got Nitro, and that is Borovic as well, picking their way through. Just a space for a car to get their way through. This battle will continue as Giorgio Michelini looking up the inside of Alex Perry. We come down into the final corner, a bump over the apex go. Thankfully, Perry also running wide there, so it doesn't get collected by Michelini. As Severin and Perry now side by side coming down towards turn 1. This is a breathless race here as we come down towards turn 1 for these 2 TCX cars. And oh, just a little over-eager on the throttle there from Severin. And round he goes and into the Armco on the inside. As that race has neutralised itself. The ever-reliable battle at the front continues. Johan Leff ahead of Joe Wilson and Matthew Perry. Parry. Very confusing with a Parry and a Perry in this race. As we come on to what will be the penultimate lap of this race. Just 2 minutes remaining. 2 more tours of this Red Bull Ring circuit. As Johan Leff leading ahead of Joe Wilson and Matthew Parry. These 3 have been within a second of each other this entire race, barring the pit stop. And what a race it has been. But still not over. As these 3 tied together as they are. Borovic just up ahead. Could add some extra complication to these final laps. And it's almost looking like they are tied together, as similarly matched they are. As we descend the hill of turn 4. Should be the final bit of traffic we see before the end of this race. The 134 car far enough up the field that should not bother these guys before the checkered flag is waved. Through they go. And it's still Johan Leff leading Joe Wilson and Matthew Parry onto what will be the final lap of this race as we come through turns 9 and 10. Second to last time in this race. As Joe Wilson running slightly wide there on the exit of 10. Hasn't cost him too much speed as he's still well within that 0.3 of a second of Johan Leff ahead. So come through, you see the car emerging from the pit lane ahead, but will not be getting in their way. The car 71 of Callum Scotland should be far enough ahead not to pose an issue before the end of this race, as Johan Leff taking a slightly defensive line on the entry into 3. This is not quite an opportunity for Joe Wilson, just a little bit too far back, not able to take advantage of a slipstream as we come down into turn 4. With Matthew Parry looming large in the mirrors of Joe Wilson. Small mistake from any of these 3 drivers could decide the order, with just a couple of turns left to go in this race. left just needs to bring this home as Matthew Parry getting his way past Joe Wilson. What has happened here? Joe Wilson getting a little, had to catch the rear of his car, and that is Matthew Parry up into P2 of this race. As now coming through the final couple of corners, Matthew Parry, Joe Wilson still going hard at it, but Matthew Parry holding on to P2 as Johan Leff takes the win here at the Red Bull Ring, followed by Matthew Parry. And oh, that must be disappointment for Joe Wilson, held on to P2 for so much of that race after starting on pole position. And a small mistake, as we said it could happen, in the final lap. And Joe Wilson finishing, rounding out the podium. And P4 we've got Jens Nielsen. P5 is Jon Jarvik. John Sawyer P7. Eckhart P8. Martez P9. Ehlers in P9. And Oravik in P10. Down in the BMW TCX class, it is Andre Thierry who takes the race win, followed by Vitek Svoboda in P2 with Anthony Victor Chappelle in P3. Marco Lorenzo with a great race coming up into P4, looking like he was going to have to pace after qualifying, but pulled it together when it counted. Jules Flint finishing in P5. Carlos Jimenez in P7. P8 we have Giovanni Michelini. Perry in P7. P8. 7. And Severin in P8. And finally Callum Scotland finishing one lap down after that spin in P9. Well, thank you very much.